that self-belief is the thing that I think will keep you hanging on to the pack and give you a chance. And even like, the last 200 meters of the race, you're like, if someone's coming up on you and they're passing you, how are you going to react? Where's that self-belief at? If you think you're the best person in the race, you're going to say, hell no, you're not beating me today.
That was 14-time U.S. champion Shelby Houlihan back on the podcast today to break down her 14th U.S. title, which came this past weekend in Eugene, Oregon, in the 5,000-meter event where she stormed with less than 200 meters to go to claim her 14th title. She is one of the greats in our sport. She doesn't miss teams. She executes when it matters the most. And after a 4-year ban, which we've extensively gone into in past episodes, so I won't address it here for the sake of time and hopping into the episode. 4-year ban, hasn't raced the U.S. championships in a minute, comes back, makes a team. She knows how to get it done. She's 32 years of age, and it looks like she's heating up. She's ready and gunning for a medal next month in Tokyo. We break it all down. I hope you enjoy this one. If you do, give us a 5-star review. It takes 3 to 5 seconds. Hit the follow button so you never miss another episode. A bunch more high level episodes coming your way out of the U.S. championships. And my final favor is share this episode with a friend. Word of mouth marketing is the easiest way in which we can grow. Without further ado, enjoy the wisdom, the lessons, the stories from 14-time U.S. champion Shelby Houlihan. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been waiting to say these words for 4 years now. The amount of shit that was talked, the amount of hate that was out there, it couldn't stop her, okay? I saw a performance on Sunday like none other, and I think the person sitting across from me the last time I had her on, and the conversation I said throughout the years was, none of it will matter because she's going to come back and she's going to win a title, and I can't wait to see the reaction. And so I'm thrilled to be sitting across from a U.S. champion, someone that won a U.S. title 12 freaking times. And I think people looked at her and said, you can end your career, you can step away. You've had a great career, you've had a great run. And she comes back, and then with a few months span, she not only wins a world championship indoor medal, but she comes back and she wins a 13th title. So 13-time U.S. national champion.
14.
14, even better. Shelby Houlihan, welcome back.
Lucky
How
number
are you?
14. Thank you so much. No, I'm good. I'm still kind of like riding the high off the weekend. So it was such a fun weekend. I'm glad, my biggest goal there was just like go make the team. And then I found myself winning the race and I was like, hell yeah, this feels good. So no, it was a fun weekend though.
Very simple question, but I'm sure you've thought deeply about it. How validated do you feel? I know it's never about proving people wrong, but I think you'd be lying to me. Maybe not. You have a pure soul. If you didn't feel a little bit of fire under your belly over the last 4 years in training, stepping up, I'm sure you wanted to win to shut some people up. I'm sure that was in the back of your head.
Yeah, it's definitely not the driver, but it is part of the motivation a little bit, like, I don't know. It's, of course, yeah, I hear the hate and stuff like that, but I think I've done a good job of surrounding myself really with the positivity, but there is that like little stubbornness and fire in me that's like, I'm back, baby. Like, screw all you. You know what I mean? So it does kind of feel good to like, this is what I've kind of been saying all year. Like, I've called this the redemption tour. So it's going off pretty well. I think, winning a US title was awesome. And hopefully I can get to Worlds and see if I can't medal outdoors too.
What's the narrative? I mean, what are people gonna say at this point? Like, you're still doping? Like, it's
Honestly,
it's just it's remarkable. It's amazing. This is like, I wish that our sport had more coverage and there was like a Netflix, ESPN documentary crew around you, because it's just, you're a freak of nature. It's not normal to step away from 4 years, work as hard as you did, come back. And I mean, we talked about in our last conversation, that is kind of the silver book ending. And I think for you, yes, you care about world medals, you care about Olympic medals, but a U.S. title is like the pinnacle of growing up in this country. To say you're a U.S. champion, I think what's cool about you corrected me there. You were a 13-time U.S. champion. And I'm sure in the back of your head, you thought, I can still make teams, but I might not ever be able to get at the top again, because factually the U.S. is just at a level we've never seen in the distance events. And so I think it'd be a different conversation if you play second or third. It'd still be cool, but like winning is what it's all about. at the US
Yeah.
level.
No, for sure. I mean, like to what you were saying, I've watched the US continue to like grow and get better and like raise the bar. And I knew going into this weekend, like it's gonna be tough. Like this is a tough field. And I hoped that I had done everything I could to prepare to try to make that team. And yeah, I mean, I think it's like you said, like it's such a cool accomplishment to be able to go and like I guess get back to where I was at, even though the competitions got better. So in a way, like I've also got better as well. So all of that work the last 4 years was not for nothing, and I've tried really hard to put myself in this position so that I could come back and I could have this year. And it's feels great that it is kind of like coming to fruition because it definitely couldn't. Like you never know what's what's gonna happen with this sport, and you put all the work in. Sometimes it still doesn't come, but I'm glad that all of that is paying off.
At the end of the day, you're a competitor at heart. I know you care about times, but the championships, the medals seem to be what you care about the most. And I'm sure you've watched the past 4 years, or maybe not, but you've at least been aware of the results. And I'm sure in the back of your head, you think, oh, if I was there, how would I have matched up? Because you're a competitor. How cool was it to line up? It's a final, no semifinal, and it's just like balls to the wall. Let's see who's the best on the day. And I think I can be the best on the day.
Yeah, I think that's been the hardest part to like kind of, and that's largely why I have stepped away from watching as well. Like it was a little bit too hard for me to watch and follow the sport for a while. But yeah, like you said, having to sit back and just like watch and wonder like what if I would have been in that race? Like what could I have run? What could I have placed? Um, it feels good even going into pre, like that was a little bit in over my head, but I was like, you know what? Like, I'm just grateful that I'm not at home watching this. So regardless of how it's going to go, I'm grateful to be here. And that's kind of how I felt going into this weekend as well. It's just like, finally, I get another opportunity. Like, I hadn't been to an outdoor US championship since 2019. And that's like
Wow.
crazy to
Was
think
New
about.
Hayward even built?
No, it wasn't.
Wow. So was that your first time racing in it?
I mean, I've gotten to race there a couple times this year
Okay,
already, like at pre, and then I did like the
sure.
Oregon Twilight. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think getting to that place of gratitude of just like I'm happy that I'm here, regardless of how it goes, I'm grateful to have the opportunity.
How nice is it that the narrative is switching? Like, here's the thing. At the end of the day, I think you'd agree with me. The people who think you doped probably will never change their mind, unfortunately. And so I think the best thing that can happen is that you just continue to live your life and do your career. And if you win a US title, people will talk about you winning a US title. At least that's how I view it. We can talk about doping all we want today, but at the end of the day, probably most of what we talk about will be winning a title and the world championships. How relieving is that to you to talk about winning and talk about preparation for a world championships when 2 years ago you probably would have cried at that thought of like no more talking about the technicalities of whether it was a truck or supplements or none of it matters.
Yeah, like exactly. Like it doesn't at this point it doesn't matter. I do feel like I've I feel past it, like I feel like okay, the first few races this year, I still like we were talking about it and like things are, it was still very much a part of the process. And I feel like now at this point in the season, at least for me, like I've moved past it. I answer questions here and there for it, but like I don't know. It's like you said, I think the people that just want to believe the worst in me and that's what I did, like nothing I say is ever going to change their mind. So like I'm not going to waste my time trying to do that, and it's not my job to do that anyway. And they're honestly probably those people were not fans of mine before anyway. So, and I don't know. I think at this point, like I just don't care. I don't care if you don't believe me. I'm gonna hold myself to my own like high integrity standard, and like you can see that or you can choose to believe the worst. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm not responsible for other people's opinions, especially if they don't know me and they're not willing to educate themselves on the case. So I think those people are people that I personally don't respect. So like, why would I care about what you think?
And you're
um,
gonna win regardless.
Yeah,
Like
like I'm gonna
talk
come
your
out and I'm
talk.
gonna I'm gonna do what I do. And like that's the like even coming into this weekend, I was definitely nervous. But I was just trying to remind myself like I've been here before. I've won national titles before. And I've made every team that I've tried out for since 2016. So like I know I'm a gamer. I'll line up and I'll give it my best shot and we'll see if that's good enough. So that's all I can really do at the end of the day.
You know what I thought, Shelby, on Sunday? I thought I would love, and I don't even know how to pronounce her name because I don't care to know. I would love to know where Dr. Iode or whatever her name was on Sunday. I wonder if she was watching.
I don't know, and I don't don't really care.
Yeah. Oh, something I did want to ask you about in regards to the race was watching it back. You crossed the finish line, and there's emotion from you, but there's not really. You kind of looked like, yeah, I knew I could do that. Take me behind that.
Yeah,
Was there any
that's funny.
emotion after the race?
It was honestly, it was a little bit more disbelief because I think so far this outdoor season, every single race I've just like kind of felt like crap and everything's felt hard. It's felt like a grind. So even going down the last 100 meters, I was half expecting someone to come up on me. And then when no one did and I crossed the line and it was just like, oh crap, like I won. Like, and then the kind of like you see the celebration a little bit once it's like, oh, cool. Yeah, I was, it's a mixture of like, that, hell yeah, I knew that was something I was capable of, but like also like, oh wow, did that actually just happen? Yeah, a little bit of a bunch of different emotions.
What were the emotions when you're, I think they call out everyone's name in the stadium when you're lined up. Like, what was going through your head? Did you feel an unusual amount of pressure or nerves? And if so, how did you handle it? Take me through some of those like pre-race emotions.
They did not announce us before. I don't know if it was like time wise, but they were like, yeah, they're gonna announce your names during the race. So luckily we didn't have to like stand on the line too long and wait for that to happen because yeah, that is a little nerve wracking when you're just like waiting to hear your name called and all this stuff. But I don't know, I felt like I was in a really good headspace. It was just like I'm ready to just go and rip it. I felt really determined and confident, a little nervous. Like there's definitely butterflies, definitely like, yeah, felt the nerves, but taking a lot of deep breaths and trying to stay as relaxed as possible. Um, yeah, and then I don't know, once the gun goes off, I feel like everything just like fades away. So I was able to really stay present and have a positive mindset throughout that race, which is something I've kind of been struggling with all year. Surprising. Not an expected uh, thing that I didn't expect to struggle with that because I think I've always been really strong mentally. But after 4 years of training alone and being in my head, I've found it hard to get out of my head now. So I'm glad that I was able to be present and just like have that positive mindset throughout the race.
I'm trying to think of what I was going to ask you because I have so many thoughts in my head right now. I was going to ask you this. Last time you raced, so before this year, not before USA's, I know you raced before USA's, but last time you were out of US Championships, you were still on the Bowerman Track Club. And I don't know the number, but off the top of my head, like in that race, Carissa, Elise, I think there were probably a few other people in the race who used to be your teammates, were all same singlet. You trained with them, and here you are on the starting line. Everyone's really in a different singlet or with a different crew, and you're all racing each other. And I know you guys are still friends off the track, but even like Bowerman is no longer. It's Nike Swoosh Track Club, which I personally hate. I love Bowerman and the history behind it. And then you
Mhm.
look at like the OAC didn't exist. You really, your last USA's to this USA's, like night and day difference in terms of landscape of the sport. Have you thought about that? Were you aware of that? And what's your just general take on the sport and how much it can change in 6 years?
It's crazy how much can change. Yeah, was the AOC? I feel like they were starting to become a thing. I don't know. I
Were
don't
they?
remember actually. I
I
think
thought they
so,
launched up
but
for COVID.
then maybe they did. Maybe
Yeah,
you're right. I don't know. I guess I don't. It feels like
I
they've
think
been around for a
2020.
while, but
Yeah.
yeah, no. I mean, I was kind of taking some comfort in those like past memories though. Like even though me and Carissa and Elise were lining up, not as teammates anymore, I was still kind of approaching it as like I get to go run with my friends. Like I've run so many miles with them. I've done so many workouts, even though it hasn't been recently. It was way long ago now, but like I still have that experience and I'm gonna kind of go into this race and just like I would have in 2019, like go sit behind them or like gauge where they're at and like have find that comfort that my friends are right next to me. Um, yeah, and they we were all kind of like right around each other
Hmm.
through the majority of the race, and I was even like, you know, kind of keying off where Carissa was and Elise, but I don't know. I It is crazy how quickly things can change, and I think that's just a testament to like, you know, kind of be grateful for where you're at right now because you have no idea what it's going to look like in 6 months or a year or 5 years or whatever that is.
I think I was talking to someone about this. You have like a 4-year golden window where you can be really dominant. I think people like Grant Fisher are in the middle of it. I think we see in the sport some people are at the tail end of it. Cole Hawker, you could say, is in the middle of it and just really capitalizing on those years. I think you see that historically in the sport. Occasionally, though, there are those greats that window is like extended, sometimes 8 years, and they can be dominant at 2 Olympic cycles. Don't even know your progression or timeline at this point. I just know it's bonkers when I think about it. You've been winning titles from before I even got into the sport. And so I'm fascinated to hear your take on like what do you think has allowed you to be able to be dominant. And I don't remember, you could tell me the year of your first US title, but all the way up to 2025 where you're winning one. Like what has allowed you to do that? Because it's not normal, and I think you will go down as one of the greats because of this past weekend. Again, that's why I love that you won, because I think it would be a different conversation if you placed second. Like you still would have made a world team, but like at the end of the day, everyone only looks at the winner.
Yeah. I I don't I feel like there's a lot of different variables that go into that. Like one, I do think in some ways the last 4 years of having to take a step back saved my body a bit. Like even though I was still training at a really high level, it wasn't as intense. I wasn't doing as much volume. I was probably training more at like 80, 85%. But I do think that helped. And I've stayed healthy throughout my entire career. So like that's the other big thing, right? It's like but I think the last 4 years actually kind of helped hold me back a bit. I'm hoping that continues to allow my career to go even longer. But I think I do a fairly good job of listening to my body. I think sometimes as athletes, like we can get caught up in like I need to always be doing something to make myself better. And I need to like go crush. I need to go like go to the gym. I need to do this. I need to do that. Whereas like sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is like go plop down on the couch for the next 2 hours and like binge a Netflix show, you know? I think, yeah, like, and I feel like I'm good at having that balance of allowing myself to recover, chilling out when I need to chill out, working really hard when I need to work hard, and just like a little bit having an off switch. And I think that's also allowed me to stay healthy. Uh, but yeah, I'm pretty in tune with my body. If something's gonna pop up, I do a better job now than I did years ago, but I do try to take it seriously and listen to what I need to do, like listen to my body and what I need to do. But I don't know. There's a lot of different variables that go into that. I think consistency and staying healthy is a huge one. And I think people underestimate how much that can propel you forward. Uh, just staying healthy instead of like always trying to do something more.
Is the 14th US title the sweetest, or would you say it's a different one?
I was thinking about that. I'm like, it feels different. It honestly, like, it feels just as good as the first one did. Like we're like, I think the first one is in 2017, and it was kind of like, holy crap, like, I can't believe I did that. That's crazy. And I feel like this is a similar one where it just kind of feels like a fresh start, and it's like the first one back. So, and honestly, it might even mean a little bit more just because of everything that I've gone through. And, this is my, what, 10th year as a pro. and to still come out, I'm 32, and win a US title after taking 4 years off, like that feels pretty good.
So have you ever missed a US team as a professional runner?
No, I mean, I guess I missed the one in 2015, like right when I graduated college, and I think I
I
turned
don't know if that
pro
counts.
in the final, like right
Sure.
before so I missed that team, but since 2016, I'm pretty sure I've made every single team that I've gone out for.
I think equality. I was talking to Ethan Strand about this yesterday, and I genuinely think Ethan's going to do some remarkable things in the sport with how young he is. And I was just like, what makes you different? A few years ago, his coach, Coach Miltenberg, um, before Ethan and Parker were anything, he goes, you got to get Ethan and Parker on if you're open to it. They're going to be great. And this was, I think they'd both made maybe one NCAA championships and they didn't perform all that well. And so at the time it was kind of a gamble. It was kind of a risk. And so flash forward to today, I did end up having them on very early. And flash forward to yesterday when I talked to Ethan, I said, why do you think Milt said that to me? And he said, because we just love to compete unlike anyone else.
Mhm.
We're just like, when we line up, there's something about us that we just like love pouring our hearts into competition. And I think that's a quality you illustrate as well. I think it's how you're able to win 14 US titles is you're obsessed, you're addicted to winning, and you find a way. How important and crucial is it if you want to be great to almost be obsessed with winning, and not obsessed to the point where you make compromises? If we're actually talking about doping, that's where I think East African countries always make the unethical, unmoral decision. But in the race, like, you're just obsessed with winning. You want to beat the people around you.
Exactly. Like, I think you have to really have that self-belief, and I do try to, you know, be kind and humble and friendly, but like when I'm on the line, I
Yeah,
think
you
I
want
am
to
better
kill.
than I think I'm better than every single other person on that line. And you have to like approach that whether I'm the best on the line or not, like I need to think that and I need to line up believing that in order to get the most out of myself, because when you get in those moments where it inevitably hurts, you got to make a decision. Am I going to stay on this pack, or I'm going to give into the pain and I'm going to fall off? Like, that self-belief is the thing that I think will keep you hanging on to the pack and give you a chance. Um, and even like, the last 200 meters of the race, you're like, if someone's coming up on you and they're passing you, how are you going to react? Where's that self-belief at? If you think you're the best person in the race, you're going to say, hell no, you're not beating me today, Or if you don't think that, then it's like, I'm going to tighten up. I don't know if I have anything left. And I've felt both of those reactions. I think we all have. But like you said, that competitiveness and that self belief really will take you a long way, especially in those moments in the race where you got to make a choice and you got to make it instantly.
Do you think you can learn to love competing, or do you think it's an innate feeling?
That's a really good question. I do think you can learn to love it, because I don't know if everyone loves it. Yeah, I don't know. That's a really good question.
Have you found yourself loving competing more as time has gone on, or do you think I would say think back to childhood, did you always have that trait in middle school track or high school track of like that same feeling that you expressed to me of feeling on the start line, like I'm better than you all, I'm gonna show it, I want to beat you?
I definitely have. I feel like I've had that throughout my entire life. Like, I am a competitive person, and to a fault, I think sometimes, where I'm like looking at like different sports and I'm like, I think I could do that, like, or just like, for instance, like I really kind of am interested in getting into trail running a little bit, and I'm like, that naive optimism, maybe you call it arrogance, whatever it is. I'm just like, I think I can do that. I think I could be good at that. But yeah, I think there's that competitiveness, that self belief, and I have always had that, I think. But I also like, knowing, having gone through and gotten a master's in sports psychology, like I do think that is also something that's learned and can be cultivated as well.
What are the next steps for you, bridging the gap between USA's World Championships? It feels fake to say, but it is real. You haven't done this since, correct me if I'm wrong here, but thinking aloud, Doha 2019, you placed fourth in the 15. You set the American record there. Does it still stand to this day? Do you still have the American record?
Hmm.
Yeah,
For
hell
now,
yeah.
I'm sure it's gonna
Yeah.
go down, but I
Uh,
still have it right now.
yeah. What's the plan, the preparation, the process over the next few weeks to give yourself the chance to medal?
Yeah, we're still kind of trying to figure out a game plan as far as like, am I gonna race? Where am I gonna go? But I think planning on kind of staying up in Flagstaff and just getting 6 weeks of really good training in. I think I'm in really good shape, but I need to get in better shape if I want to medal. Everyone's running super fast, like 13:58 crazy fast. So like I gotta step up my game. And the good thing about the 5K though, I think is it could be a 14 flat race or it could be a 14:30 race. Like you never quite know. I think the 15 has typically been like you gotta run really fast in that final. Um, so I'm excited to try the 5K again. I haven't been to a championship at a world level in the 5K since 2017, I think. So that's exciting. But yeah, I don't know. I think just kind of spending the next 6 weeks trying to get in even better shape than I already am, working on that self-confidence piece, so that I can line up and give myself the best shot at trying to go after a medal.
Speaking of the 15 in 2019, 5K in 2017, why didn't you decide to double at USA's this year? Give yourself multiple chances. And were you scared? Were you nervous at all to put all your eggs in one basket? Or was that exciting to you?
I was definitely scared. Yeah, no. It was scary and exciting, right? Like at least this time, like I only had to run one race. So there was like that pressure where you're like, you got to do it perfectly, because you only get one shot. But yeah, there was a couple variables really that kind of went into that decision. I think like I said, all outdoor season so far, like everything's kind of felt like a grind. I felt a little fried at times. We really had to quickly try to reset my body and get me ready for USA's. And I wasn't sure that I could get in that sharpness for the 15. I felt like I needed to be on my A game 1500, like to make that team. And I felt like that's my body was coming around, but I wasn't totally sure if it was going to be there in time. My body was on its own timeline as things go. But also thinking about it, like even if I did make that team, I realistically need to get into like 350 to 353 shape in order to medal at Worlds. And I wasn't sure that I could do that in the next 6 weeks. So I think those two things really were the biggest factors going into that decision. And racing so far has kind of, again, been kind of frying my body. So I was like, I don't want to get too greedy and do both races, do three races in one weekend. I'm finally starting to feel like myself again. So let's just focus on one. Let's focus on the 5K. That like little bit slower pace might feel a little more comfortable. And it did. And so, yeah, the kind of putting all my eggs in that basket and running with it.
We talked about the haters. I want to focus on the supporters. I'm assuming family, friends, is your sister coaching you or someone else?
Yeah,
Or
my
yeah,
sister and my
sister.
boyfriend, they're kind of like
Okay.
co-coaching. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure they were both there. What was it like, those interactions post meet? Were tears shed?
Tears weren't shed. I mean, I feel like they were like about to be shed, but they were not
Yeah.
actually shed. I didn't get to see them until after I like went through the media tent and everything. Like they were on the other side of the track, and I had kind of stayed on the opposite side. Um, and then yeah, I went through the media tent, and then I finally saw them, and it was just like, oh my God, this is crazy, and like gave them hugs. Yeah, I don't know. It was just like kind of a celebration, really. It was really good to see them. I'm glad like Shayla was there, my boyfriend Riley, my younger sister Chloe. And so yeah, and then my parents weren't able to make it. And so my mom's just constantly texting me like, call me, call me, call me. So it's just, yeah, I mean, I think it was just like a really awesome day overall. And I'm glad that I got some family there to celebrate and, everyone was watching it on TV that couldn't be there. So it was, yeah, it was very cool.
What would you? You probably won't have an answer for me, but what would you title a book? And will you write a book one day? Like, how do you summarize the last 5 years into a sentence or two? Like, have you thought about that?
I haven't thought about what to title a book.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But um, yeah, gosh, that's a really hard question to
That's for a
to answer
publisher.
right
Yeah.
now. Yeah. I don't know what
But
I
in
would
terms of just
title it.
summarizing the past couple of years and what it meant to leave the sport at the top of it and come back and be at the top of it, at least in terms of the US purview.
I think this has been a cool year and a cool story of like perseverance and resilience. Um, and I think it's cool that I get to say like, oh, I've come back and I've won a world silver medal, and I've won a U.S. title of who knows what. Hopefully I can do something at World Outdoors, but like also there was so many low points throughout the last 4 or 5 years as well. Like this feels like kind of a fairy tale story, but it did not feel like one in any way. And that was really hard to, I feel like I'm proud of how I handled it. I'm proud of how I grew. But a lot of the time through that, it was more so just like, how can I get to a point where I'm okay again? Uh, and so like, yeah, like growing through it and learning through it was way not even something I was thinking about. It was just really trying to like be okay and get through each day. Um, and then, but to be able to come out on the other side and like really look back and feel proud of how I've handled it and all the work that I put in, what I'm doing now, how my relationship with running has changed. Like, I don't know, it's all kind of like crazy to think about, I guess.
I think it's a question I want to ask more people, and I think it's a question more people should ask themselves because I think it could be really quick or deep. But what do you feel like your relationship is like with running? Like you clearly love the sport of running, the act of putting one foot in front of the other. Where do you feel like your relationship is at with it?
I'm still trying to figure it out right now. Like before
You're in a
being on Bowerman
situationship.
stuff, yeah, kind of like being on Bowerman, it was just like like your life revolves around running, and like that's the number one priority. I loved that. That is like I had already been doing that anyway. And so for me, it didn't feel like a sacrifice. I really enjoyed it. I loved it. I loved being able to do it with teammates. And then having the last 4 years of having to figure out like to not have that be my priority because it was crushing that it still was like I just like felt so aimless, having to figure it out, having to pivot, having to like do so much self exploration and growth. I've It's funny, I spent the last 4 years trying to get to this point of coming back, and now this year it's almost been hard where I'm like, oh wait, I actually really enjoyed not having it be my priority, and I enjoyed living my life and having adventures. And now I'm trying to get to a point where how do I have that balance with this new perspective of like, I still want to live my life, I still want to have adventures, but I also know I need to continue training hard in order to do what I also want to do in the sport. Um, and I'm still figuring that out this year. I think there's been moments this year where I felt really burnt out. I was like, why am I doing this? I like, yeah, just kind of like all of the different emotions. And I mean, I don't know if you knew this, like that's kind of why I like bought a trailer that we're about to move in 2 days. Because I'm like, well, that sounds exciting. I think having home wherever and like being able to have the freedom to go wherever is going to provide that sense of adventure while I also train at a high level. And so hopefully I'm hoping that it provides some of that balance. And if it doesn't and I hate it, then we can pivot and do something else. But yeah, trying to like, I guess, long story short, like I'm still trying to figure out what my relationship with running looks like and continuing to try to like find that balance in a new way.
Have you thought about, and this is probably a question to ask you after Worlds, but longevity in the sport in terms of, do you want to try and make a run for LA 2028? Is that the fairy tale ending where you medal there and then you peace out and you're like, I'm done? Is it because at this point you've proved that you can get back on top after the ban? And so in some sense you could retire after this year and probably do what you proved. But also knowing you, I know you probably want to medal really, really bad at a major championships. Is that the pinnacle? And how do you decide this question that I think so many champions of sports face, which is like, when do you go out? Do you go out winning the Super Bowl, or do you try and, milk as many seasons chasing another Super Bowl as possible?
Yeah, I don't know yet. I think like there is that stubbornness for sure. I'm like, I'm definitely going to 28 and I want to see what I could do. And I think that's probably the plan. Um, I think I will run as long as I can. Um, so even beyond 2028, I think I might continue running. It might be on the roads, it might be on the trails. I don't know. Like I'm gonna chase whatever is feeling fun and exciting. Um, so whatever that will look like, I'm not sure yet, but I do love this sport and I love running, so I'm sure I will be a part of it in some capacity. And even if I'm not running, like I just got a master's in sports psychology, I want to work with athletes on that mental side of performing. So like maybe it's in that capacity. But I think for me, my biggest sign to leave is when it's not fun anymore and I just want to do other things with my life.
Wrapping up this conversation, what's the final takeaway message for the listener? Can be anything, can be watch me kick ass next month, can be a word of encouragement, anything.
Oh boy, I hadn't even thought about like something like that. I don't know, like I guess like the immediate thing that came in my mind is like practicing presence. Whether you're celebrating a win, enjoying that moment and like really being in that moment, or even if something's, you're going through a really crappy time, taking it day by day, sometimes hour by hour. I think for me, that's been a really good way to live my life. So I don't know. I guess something along the lines of that, like really just like practicing that presence, being grateful, being mindful, um, enjoying all of the different moments because we never know how much time we have.
Amen to that. Shelby, thank you so much for yet another conversation. And I just love thinking about like looking back and, the first conversation we had, granted, was probably very crappy audio quality because Dominic at the age of 15 didn't know what he was doing. But it is quite cool to think and look back and be like, you can hear 5, 6 different Shelbys at different points of the band. And that's really cool to look back on. So really wanted to make this conversation happen because I think this is what it's all been building to, and what I always had faith and belief in you as, just going back to my 15-year-old self, a fan of you. I knew you could do. And so thank you for breaking this down. I literally knew this was 4 years in the making. I remember that episode saying like, you're going to be back and you're going to win a US title. And so it's so cool to break down with you and greatly appreciate it. And bigger things ahead. I know there's more to recap down the road at the more you race. So keep crushing it. And I'll be cheering for
Yeah.
you from home next month in Tokyo.
No, thank you so much. I always enjoy talking to you, and it's always such a pleasure. And like even in that spirit, like to see how much you've grown from the first time we talked too, like and how cool, like much you've done with this podcast. It's been really awesome to follow it and watch, and I'm a big fan of yours as well.